welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gredick, your host. Delighted to have you with us this morning. It's a beautiful Thursday morning. I'm not normally here on Thursdays, but delighted to be here. And the reason is Todd Wright is in the studio. And it's good to have you back. It's been a couple of years since you and I have been together on the program.
It has.
So, but the reason we're back today, as usual, I'm always behind. I get my glasses on. You've got a brand new book, Hunting Legacy by Todd Wright, Forging Meaning from Midlife and Manhood. If there's a chance that you haven't heard about Todd Wright, let me give you a very quick in the back of the book about the author. Todd Wright is a lifelong investor in people as a family man, pastor, radio personality, international leadership speaker, coach, mentor, and writer. He's also a hunter and lover of the great outdoors. He and his wife Lisa live on a quiet piece of acreage in Rooteville, Georgia, where they love family gatherings with children and grandchildren. Visit toddwright.com to learn about coaching and church leadership, training opportunities, and view Todd's additional books and hunting legacy merchandise. So, tell us, Joel, if you want to go ahead and put the Hunting Legacy graphic up so everybody can see it. We're on Facebook Live this morning. As our viewers there will see, it's got two outdoorsmen and the horse, and they're appears to be somewhere out west, maybe the Rockies. But tell us why you wrote the book, and maybe the way to kind of lead into that is, as you pointed out to me, one outdoorsman, one hunter is an elderly guy.
Yeah.
And the other one is a little bit younger.
Yeah, Steve, first, thanks for hosting me today, and glad to be with you. Really appreciate your efforts through the years to make West Georgia a better place, bringing it together with all the different types of music that you have and stations, and it's been my joy to partner with you, helping people keep life in focus for the last several years, since about January 2011.
We made a radio personality.
You made me a radio personality, and I love giving the 1-minute encouragements every day to people. So this particular book came about because I was standing by my father's deathbed here in Carrollton, Georgia, at the hospital, Tanner Hospital, 2 weeks before he died. And he looked up at me and said, "Son, you and I both know I don't have long for this world. And if there's anything you really want to do, go home and write it down on your calendar, save your money, and go do it." Because yesterday I was a teenager. And if he'd have lived another 6 weeks or so, he'd have been 80. But time passes quickly. And of course, at that moment, I'm in a deep, deep grief funk, just really can't think well. But I went home, I couldn't get that statement out of my head. Did his funeral a couple of weeks later, and my dad had been a businessman in Tallapoosa, owned Wright's Army Store for many years, since 1964, and impacted a lot of people through that, helped them have adventures and those kind of things. And I was around adventurous people growing up as a boy doing that. And so I had a lot of dreams regarding that and surrounding that concept, but many of them, because of life and the pursuit of success as a man, I left a lot of those behind and never got to do them. And I found myself, when I'm standing there, I was 48 years old as I stood beside him. And that's in the middle of midlife. And didn't know why I'd lost a lot of the luster for living and desire and passion for life. And I'm pastoring a church. I've been greatly blessed. I've been pastor of Midway Church now almost 30 years, and here in Villa Rica. And doing that, you'd think I'd just be the happiest guy in the world. And I learned how to put on a smiling face every day. But the fact is, inside, I just lost a lot of happiness, lost a lot of what I should have been experiencing. And so I went home, and within the next year, I wrote down a list of dreams that I'd always wanted to do, but just never got around to doing. And I spent the next 12 years living out those dreams that if I hadn't have written them down, I would have never done them.
And I think there's a subtle point here also, is you did that at 48.
I did.
Most men wait till they're 62, 63, 65, and then health issues become a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And midlife, and I saw, as I was living that out, I didn't start out to write the book, but as I neared the end of that journey, actually about 3 years ago, I realized how impactful that one statement was from my father, that one challenge on his deathbed. And, he was a towering influence in my life, but that might supersede all the other influence that he gave me. And he spoke many words of wisdom in my life through the years, but that one changed an entire season and really the rest of my life. And I got a grasp of where I was going wrong.
But you must have had an element of fear to step out and do that, because you had enormous responsibilities.
Oh, absolutely.
Enormous challenges, as we all do. And so how, when you're still caught up in the struggles and the pressures and the stresses of life, and you see yourself transitioning, how do you move from one phase to the other when the debt may still be there, the family responsibilities, maybe health issues?
Yeah, I had a stroke. I have a tumor I'm living with now on one of my kidneys. Been a couple of times I thought I wasn't going to survive some of those things. Had a car accident when I had my stroke and hit someone else.
You passed out.
Yeah, that's right. And so, all of those are surprises. But I think the way we do that, and the way I've had to do that, is remember my why. We always want to know the what and the how, but knowing the why is more important. And I think even as boys, it's really while men and women will gain lots of insight and help from this book, I geared it towards men because I feel like there's so little information out there to help men with good clarity and honesty deal with the issues they face and the mind battles that go on inside of us. And from the time we're kids, as little boys, we want our life to matter. And I believe we're on a hunt, even at those early years, for a legacy. We dream about what I want to be when I grow up. And then in our 20s, am I becoming that? And how can I do that? And we start learning how to do it. And in our 30s and 40s, we start trying to live that out. And then many times, we've made turns, and some of those have been detours away from that. And we need a realignment with what our real why is. And if you want to speed ahead, you can go all the way to your death date and people walking by and what they have to say about you when you're gone, from your friends, your community, your spouse, your kids, your grandkids. What do you want them to think of when they think of you? And to me, that's how you make that shift. You realign towards that, living that out.
But what's tragic if you don't take that realignment, because we all start out in our 20s and 30s, and we're thankful that the church grew, we're thankful that the radio stations grew, but there does come that time that you realize you're mortal. You don't think so much about that when you're in your 20s. And so you're looking like, what are people going to say about me when I leave? How's the legacy? But you're still, so how do you had that, your father, like you say, he was almost the most important thing is to live your dreams in the last phase. Yeah. So your dreams are pretty clear, and we'll get into that as we go through the book. And thankfully I've read 4/5 of the book, so I don't know how it exactly ends, but I got a good idea. Anyway, but harp on that. Just stay on that for a minute. He said, go live your dreams. As you move to the second phase, he gave you direction for that. And you may not have had that kind of direction.
I didn't have that. It took me a while to find it. Success always helps men. We always feel better about ourselves when we succeed. But to be honest, most of that success for most men, we don't realize it, but it's all geared toward our professional life. I mean, we strive to succeed in our professional life. Yeah. And we go to the right college, we make the right contacts, we finally get in, we build influence in that organization or business or church.
Work 80 hours a week.
Exactly right. But, someone has said, you can't smell the flowers if you're working 12 hours. And that's where I was. But there's so much more to life than just that. And that's what dawned on me. And it was like a rocket science. I had a great family, but I had ignored these personal dreams down deep inside. and they wouldn't go away. But some of them I'd given up on. And so when I sat down after my dad's statement and challenge, I kept asking myself for a year, what am I dreaming about? What can I put on my calendar other than work and maybe a family vacation or two? And as I just kept asking those questions, these dreams, as a boy, I used to read about these mountain men and trappers, and I thought that was the most unique thing in the world, to be able to go out and listen to coyotes at night. So that's where a lot of mine came from. And the old show, movie Jeremiah Johnson and Grizzly Adams as a boy, that was prime when I was a young teenager. And that was so intriguing to me. To me, that was the ideal life. And then God called me into ministry, which I'm grateful for. And it's been beautiful and wonderful, but I never could let go of that little bit of nagging, but I just didn't have time for it and didn't think I would ever have time for it. But Dad taught me I can make time for it and put it on the calendar.
Well, that's priceless. And you kind of alluded to that. That was what a wonderful gift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because most guys, and this gets me going, because I don't believe in the word retire. I mean, obviously people come up to me every day and say, well, why don't you retire? Go out and enjoy life. So you want to buy these radio stations? And they run in a panic. I mean, they don't even stop. They turn and start running. But, how dare the government tell me I should retire at 65 or 67? And retirement may be fine for some to go play tennis, golf, clean out the garage. But for others, that's not good. And then you hear the stories about a guy worked his entire life, retires, and he's dead in 2 years.
Yep.
So you've got I think this is so important, that go live your dreams while you can. My grandfather, who we mentioned over the air or prior to the show, Atlanta cop, then a radio guy, and it was a different time many years ago. But he went out and bought a Cadillac in his late 60s after he, had financially was secure, paid cash for it. Yet he had holes in his shoes because he was so cheap. But he paid cash. But then he got sick, and he only put 6,000 miles on this giant Cadillac.
Yeah.
And I always thought, what a tragedy.
Yeah.
So
I think, Steve, most men, we're not taught how to do this.
Yes.
And it sneaks up on us.
Exactly.
And we're on that runaway treadmill I refer to in the book. So the entire first section of the book is all about my journey. I'm asking myself, after my dad died, I take the reader on a journey of me asking myself questions. How did I get here? How did I get in this life? How did I get in this, in some cases, this chaos and mess? And other things, that was these great blessings in my life. But so...
And you said chaos and mess, but part of that was financial.
Absolutely.
I mean, debt.
Just pursuit
of
success and trying to figure it all out and following this person's advice, that person's advice, and then the rules change in the middle of all of that.
And I loved how you referenced, and you had, like I had, invested in local bank stock in 2000, and then we had the crash, and you so perfectly referenced, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, how the federal government had encouraged these.
They changed the rules.
They changed the rules, and they bailed out the big banks, but our local community banks were not bailed out. And I think that's important to mention, because there were many people locally who looked to that bank stock for retirement, and
it was one of the safest investments in history.
Oh, I know, and it was
all until I got in.
You and me both. But anyway.
But that's the way life is.
Yeah.
There's no absolute scientific way to live every day with a guaranteed expectation. Our spiritual life, we can know some absolutes because of our faith and our trust in God, and we know we're guaranteed heaven, and we understand all of that through our faith in Jesus Christ. But how we carry out every day, I meet very good faith-filled people regularly who have failed at so much or faced so much hardship in their life, and they don't know how to get back to some of that. So that we have these components: spiritual, vocational, our health, our relationships, and we've got to get all that in sync.
And
there has to be congruency on how we're living out those things. And that's what I'm trying to learn how and teach others how to do better.
And your book is divided into 3 parts. In the first part, you talk about this, and you're doing that now. But I think so many people don't really talk about the trials and tribulations that we have in this life.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's pride or whatever, and we don't want
shame.
Yeah, a shame or pride. I mean, you and I just admitted that we bought bank stock that went to zero,
and we got taken, buddy.
So I mean, that's not something you want to say publicly necessarily. So, but there's so much of that in life.
Well, Steve, I've learned it helps people so much for somebody to be honest. When I was young, I would go hear these speakers and sometimes even pastors. And it was like they never had faced a failure in their life. Everything they touched turned to gold or success. And they never faced any battles or hardships or sadness or disappointment or failure. And it just got old. And I knew they were lying.
Yeah.
It's a form of lying.
Yeah.
When you give the pretense that everything's worked out great, and it hasn't, because you can't be honest enough to say the truth. And so when I wrote this book, I determined to be honest and tell the truth to men.
But there is a positive aspect to that, because that's how God shapes us and molds
Absolutely
us and conforms us to His image.
It's a part of our journey.
Yeah, and the journey is life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not that we end up, at a certain age with X number of grandkids and X number of dollars in the bank.
That's right. We're plugging away at this thing till the day we leave here, and I believe God designed it so we're pursuing our calling. We're pursuing purpose. I believe we're at our best when we're pursuing serving others. We're pursuing Him. We're pursuing happiness. We're pursuing being our better self, our best self possible. And I've learned, and one of the things I've done a while back is I have gone back and written down 3 key words that identify who I am when I'm my best. Mm-hmm. And I look at those regularly. Mm-hmm. And they change because hopefully I'm growing, but it gives me a target of how to treat people, how to think, what attitude to have in every interaction. And I try to have that mindset going into that interaction, whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one or a hard one, difficult, or just hanging out with somebody. What kind of person do I want to be? And that's something I've just started just this year, actually, to try to even help in my future, because I got a bad side too, and I'm at my worst when I do certain things, think certain ways.
And that what you just described struck me when my mother passed, and everybody talked about her character, her love, her demeanor, et cetera, and I'm going, nobody cared about her degrees, her college degrees. She had a dual degree from Barry or whatever. But
or how much money she had in the bank, or these other types of things.
Not one instance of that. Yeah. But, we love her. She loved us. She came by to visit all the time, et cetera, et cetera.
So that goes back to that why. Mm-hmm. You said when she died. Mm-hmm. Well, we're not there yet, and we hope we got a long time. I hope I've got 25 or more years left. I'm 60 now, but it's coming.
Yeah.
And if I can go there and work back in hindsight, it just helps me be more wise now to live intentionally, to be that person. Yeah. So, that's sort of why I wrote the book. That's some of what the first section's about. Okay. And then I went out and began living those dreams. It sort of evolved about 4 or 5 years after my dad made that statement, and I had the list for 2 or 3 years already, but couldn't afford to do any of them. And then it began to unfold, and I take the reader on that journey.
We're going. This is going to be a special program. We're going to go to 9:30, and because we've still got 2 more sections to talk about, and so we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more with Todd Wright as we feature his new work, Hunting Legacy, after these words.
The Entrepreneur Scholar Journey at Oak Mountain Academy is designed to provide students with a clearly defined curriculum-based track to acquire essential knowledge and skills for success in business and leadership. Critical areas include identifying entrepreneurial characteristics, selecting a value position, and business model development. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to journey with us on the mountain. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gredick, your host. Delighted to have Todd Wright in studio. I've read 4/5 of his brand new book, Hunting Legacy. And Joel, if you could put that graphic back up so people can see. We mentioned that in the first segment. Forging Meaning from Midlife to Manhood. Why the cover?
Oh man, the cover is special. It hangs in my den.
Really?
Yeah. That was a print. A mentor, Stephen Garner, longtime attorney from Bremen, Georgia.
Oh yeah, Murphy and Garner.
That's right. He purchased that for me, and he and I are great friends. And he constantly is working to invest in my life in a variety of ways. As a leader at Midway Church, he actually purchased that for me because on the cover there, he knows I love the West and the outdoors, but on the cover there's two men standing there, two old trappers from a couple of hundred years ago, and one of them is an old guy with silver hair, and he's pointing the way as he has his arm around the younger trapper, and it's like he's saying, that's where we're going, and here's what we're going to find. That's the direction. And it was a reminder that it's a part of our life as men, as we get older, to be honest enough to pass on to the next generation the wise way. And I dedicated this to my father and the many other men who've helped show me the way. Our understanding of life and manhood has been passed down to us, and so that cover was painted by Paul Calley, one of the famous artists of our day and our time. He passed away about 15 years ago, but he designed stamps. So every space stamp you've ever seen,
You're kidding.
he designed it. So he loved to adventure and think about exploring the West and space. He was actually present at the Apollo first landing on the moon. He was present when they landed back in the United States before they departed, and he was the only artist and was there doing the pencil drawings of what he saw. And so I'm really proud of that, and his family gave me permission to use that cover.
Staying on the cover for another minute or so, not only is he passing the legacy along, but you look at his gray beard and you look at his face, and that's born from a lifetime of out in the wilderness when, with all the threats and the dangers and the heartache and
the journey of life takes its toll on us.
Yeah, exactly. I used to have a full head of hair
exactly
at
right.
one point,
Yep.
long time ago. But that's also reflective in this drawing, and I think that's interesting. Now, part two of the book, I'm going to read these. You go through 7 different hunting experiences. Number 1, whitetail deer hunt in South Georgia. Number 2, elk hunt in the Colorado Rockies. Number 3, moose hunt in Alaska. 4, pheasant hunt in South Dakota. 5, financial freedom or mortality and coon hunting.
That's right.
6, barren ground caribou hunt. 7, black bear on Vancouver Island.
Yeah.
Now, I got to read all these, and I'm not a hunter, as we talked about earlier, and I was fascinated about them because it gave me insight into them. Now, you used just a minute ago, you used the word adventure.
Yeah.
Tell me how adventure is a driving force here.
Yeah. Adventure, I define adventure in the book as where the map ends and the journey begins. Adventure is when we don't have a road map, and even the planning we think we've done to go somewhere turns out to be not quite exactly correct, and it puts us in a time or place and mindset where we're having to make each step hoping that we're going in the right direction, and that's adventure to me. And these hunts were, there's a sense of adrenaline that a man feels when we're on an adventure, and we all have different types of adventures.
How important? I mean, there's some people, it seems like, my sister's one, that just lives for adrenaline.
Yeah, absolutely.
Explain that to me.
We're all different. I think every person's dreams are different, and some guys get excited about going fishing, whether they catch anything or not. Some it's driving a race car. Others it's climbing mountains or going on a hike or whatever. They're just numerous. Some love technology, and they're just at their best when they're diving into something new, technological. Flying an airplane. Yeah. So much of this, and so much of mine was more around natural things and just being outside.
But that becomes back to your father.
A lot of it does, and the experiences I had with those men who helped shape my thinking. That would come into my dad's store when I was a boy.
Because all these hunting experiences are really a almost pure reflection of the stories you heard in your
doubt in my mind.
Your dad's
Exactly.
store, and your relatives.
Yeah.
Getting different hunting rifles growing up.
So our dads, I'll speak for men, our dads, granddads, uncles, maybe key influencers, maybe something we've read or seen on television, they imprint in us what manhood and masculinity is all about. And there's something in us, I think, that thrives to or strives to want to do that someday so we can feel like a real man. That's what a real man does. And we get a sense of what that is when we're boys in a variety of ways. A dad maybe is a great mechanic, and we see that. And so we love working on cars. That's what a real man does.
Great radio engineer.
That's right. Or you see some guys that are working on cars. There's nothing wrong with the car. They just got to tinker with it all the time. They got their hood up all the time, because that's what a man does. So it's that kind of concept. And this journey began with me. I didn't know if I would ever get back to doing any of those things. So I'm on my farm one day and my phone rings, and it's a dear friend of mine who's here in Carrollton, an attorney, Wayman Rooks. Rooks.
Yeah.
And he was part of our church. We weren't that close at the time, but he invited me to go on a deer hunt with his father and a friend and his brother. And I'm so grateful, because what he didn't know is because I'd been running toward success and professional ministry accomplishments, my guns had been locked up in a safe for about 12 years. And I had not gone hunting hardly at all, and didn't know if I'd ever get around to it. So that was a refresher. So that's what that was. I just wanted to get back to doing some of that I'd done with my dad and my cousin Donald Cobb, and there were a few others back in the early years, but I wanted to do that. So that's what the first chapter's.
But when you were a boy, you were hunting squirrel, rabbits,
I was.
And coons.
But I even went out hunting deer with some of those older guys. But yeah, I was hunting raccoons as a boy, and possums and rabbits and squirrels and those kind of things.
Coon hunting.
Coon hunting, yeah. We'll get to that in a second.
But now raccoons can be pretty aggressive.
They can be. And of course, every book I've read of Daniel Boone or Davy Crockett, they had the coonskin cap. So I had to have me a coonskin cap when I was a boy. All of that stuff worked in, and I loved, back in the day, I enjoyed trying to tan hides and that kind of thing. So that was part of that natural process.
How different is it hunting whitetail deer and rabbits and squirrels, and then hunting big game, elk, moose, and caribou?
It's a lot different. The terrain's different, of course. The way you hunt's different. The mannerisms or the habits of the creature's different, so you have to learn different things.
And bear too. I didn't mention
and bear. That's right. Yeah. So all of those.
These are not little bears.
Oh no,
these are stand on your hind
they're
quarters.
400 or 500 pounds, some of them, and 6-7 feet tall. So yeah, they're big. But all of that, I've been able to go to Alaska. I went Colorado and the Rockies. So I take the reader on those journeys, and the journey is a real challenge. We sit in deer stands here mostly on power lines, and we have food plots and those kind of things. But with elk, it's different. You have to you're walking and you're climbing mountains and you're glassing, with binoculars way off in the distance and trying to
Now,
get that
glassing
shot.
with binoculars is a term for a high-powered binocular type.
That's right, yeah. And just spending hours looking at mountain sides and valleys where you see nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, there he is.
Give us this is probably going to be the hardest question.
Okay.
Give us an understanding of, if you can, of what it's like to be out in the wilderness. Obviously, no cell phones, no running water, no electricity, and there you've got your rifle, and you've got the elements, and out there there's 6-foot tall bears and that kind of thing. What is that experience like? What does it do to you?
Oh, man, I don't know if I can put an exact word to it, but you mentioned adrenaline earlier.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sense of awareness when you remove the safety nets. We always like to have a secondary plan, safety nets. Mm-hmm. And on my moose hunt, when the guy dropped us off on a mountain, me and one other young man, he was in his 20s, and I was in my 50s. Tommy White had been a part of our church. I remember when he was a baby, and he's now a man in his young 30s. So we're together, and they dropped us off on this mountain and said, we'll pick you up right here in 5 days. And, when they pull away, we had a satellite phone we could text with, or press for emergency. But outside of that, we'd remove the safety nets. We had what we're going to eat on us. We had 70-pound backpacks of food. We had a certain amount of water because we don't know for sure about where we're going to find water, and we had little straws for purification. We had some helps, but yeah, it feels a little strange. You got your tent, your sleeping bag, and something.
But now you were doing this when you were 50 years old.
Yeah, I was 53 or 4, I think. When I did that
you're
one.
getting a little bit older at 50, and the physical. I mean, it's a lot different 50 than 20 or 30. And so you must have experienced some real struggles physically.
Yeah, I had to work out for a good while,
to prepare
a few months just to prepare, heart strength, endurance, that kind of stuff. It was really challenging. Not just the mountain, but the valley. You think a valley is going to be easy, and that was the hardest part because beavers had dammed it up, and we're walking in mud and with every step with all this weight on us. And my left knee is messed up because of that trip. It reminds me every day today. Every day. It reminds me every day of that trip, but I don't regret it at all. It was amazing.
For those of us who never have and most likely never will, be out in the wilderness with a rifle pointed at a giant bear or elk or caribou or something of that nature, describe to us if you can, because most of us are never going to experience that, what it's like to be sitting there and then have that trophy in your sights.
Well, first of all, I want to say hunters, for the most part, now there's some exceptions to this, but we highly love and respect animals and wildlife.
And whenever you take a trophy, you pray.
I do. Yes, I do.
Tell us about that prayer.
And this has been going on since virtually the beginning of time.
Yes.
That when you take the life of an animal, there's a purpose behind that. And my dad always taught me, if you kill something, you eat it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why God has it here.
Mm-hmm. That's why He gave it for us.
That's right. And, we move away from some of those concepts because we buy chicken in the grocery store and don't know it had to die.
Right.
Kids are shielded from the ugly part of that.
It was a baby chick at
That's
one
right.
point. Yeah.
We lose a lot of that, or we eat bacon. We don't know it was a pig.
Mm-hmm.
So we're removed from that today. But when you hunt, you have a deeper appreciation for what it takes to survive every day, and whether you like it or not, that's just some of the facts of life. And everything that's born is someday going to die, including us. Mm-hmm. And it goes back. We want to make sure. To me, it's a reminder of making sure that everything and everyone is fulfilling its purpose. To me, it's tied back to purpose. So I don't want to go and just randomly kill something. Mm-hmm. It means something for that life, and it ought to be providing something when it's killed. So that's a key part of that journey and process and mindset of hunting.
In each of these 7 stories, there's never any hesitation about the fact that you've got to get the meat and the carcass and everything out.
That's right.
From the place
That's
it,
right.
it was killed.
Yeah, even the moose. Doesn't matter where you kill it. In Alaska, there are huge fines and penalties if you don't pack that meat out. And when you take a 1,200 or 1,500 pound moose and you get him on the ground, you may have hunted for him for 2 or 3 days, but the work has just started. When you look down at that thing with a knife, it's like, where do I start?
But
so,
now but you eat the meat, but it's not just the meat. I mean, you eat a lot of the components.
That's
of
right.
that.
Not everyone does, but I love heart. I love liver. I love some of those parts too, and that's usually what I eat first. But I enjoy that.
I remember seeing, because you've got a foreword here by Willie Robertson, of CEO of Duck Commander and starred Duck Dynasty, and I remember, I think his dad Phil.
Yeah.
I saw one time he was cleaning a duck, and he said, "This is purely organic."
That's right. It is.
And so what's it like to eat something that is purely organic like that?
Well, each creature, of course, has a different taste, just like pork and beef and fish. But it's I don't know. There's a sense of I helped provide for that. It's not just about it being organic to me. I can't tell the difference whether it's organic or whether it's grain fed somewhere or whatever. But in your mind, we know there's a difference as far as cleanliness is concerned. And even as a Christian, in the Bible, it talks about clean and unclean animals.
Sure.
And how to prepare it and those types of things, and eat it with gratitude. So I see all that as a part of that journey. So I've learned to reconcile all of that, even in today's world of anti-hunting of every type. I just feel like it needs to be done ethically and those kind of things. So,
and before we move on, before we take our next break, I remember, I think it was the story about the pheasants in South Dakota,
yeah.
and how I think it was the late 1800s.
Correct.
That the pheasants had brought in from Asia.
That's right.
And they had been populated in South Dakota.
That's
to
right.
where they're at the level now, which I think was a decade or two ago, where you could actually hunt them.
Correct.
So hunters often say, we're committed to maintaining and building that particular animal population.
We call it conservation.
Okay.
So that's why there are a certain number of licenses that are issued every year. The money for those licenses in each state goes toward replenishing or helping maintain healthy herds. Sometimes if it gets too populated, there are diseases that can wipe out the entire process. With subdivisions and roads and highways, there's great damage to, through cars and accidents and those types of things. So, yeah, there's a huge effort on conservation. I was fortunate to hunt with Dan Cabela's, his father founded Cabela's Stores.
Which was bought by Dick's Sporting Goods.
No, it was bought by Bass Pro Shops.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Bass Pro Shops several years ago.
Yeah.
And we were at the same cabin and hunted out of the same cabin. We'd actually have the experience together in the field, but we ate together every morning and every evening and had a lot of conversations.
I remember that. He got the trophy first.
That's right, of course. Yes.
You were
but, he spends now his life and fortune, I'll say, because of his father's investment. I mean, I was sitting around the fifth and sixth grade. A couple of buddies and I were looking at Cabela's magazines back in the day, many, many years ago. And then to get to be in the same cabin and hunt with him was pretty special. But to hear his stories, and then he's devoting so much of his wealth. He's on the road so much. I'm connected to him through Instagram, and he has a television show on History Channel, and it's about conservation. And it's just it's pretty big effort from lions to elephants. He's into it worldwide, making sure that animals that may be going extinct for a variety of reasons are being replenished. And he's a hunter also. So yeah, it works both ways.
And when they're extinct, they're extinct.
That's right.
Unless you try to do this AI nonsense. But anyway, okay, well, that's part two. And now we're going to take a break. We'll come back and we'll finish up with part three. entitled Hunting for a Better Legacy is part 3 of the book Hunting Legacy by Todd Wright. We'll be back with more after this.
Oak Mountain Academy is an innovative school of academic excellence celebrating over 61 years. I'm Patrick Uran, head of school, inviting you to join us on the mountain to see our mission and vision in action. Academic excellence, a faith-based environment, and dynamic opportunities are just a few of the reasons our families choose Oak Mountain Academy. Academic scholarships and tuition assistance are available. For more information, visit us at oakmountain.us. Discover your journey at OMA. Prepare, explore, and achieve.
Consider the Mobius strip. Take a strip of paper, twist it, connect the ends. This connection forms a continuous loop. Seamless, infinite. That's how your healthcare should be too. At Tanner Health, the Mobius is our symbol and our promise, representing our continuum of care and our commitment that the services you need will be here for you always. We're not just changing healthcare, we're redefining it. See more at tanner.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us. We are very honored to have in studio author Todd Wright, new book, Hunting Legacy. Again, if you wouldn't mind, Joel, posting that cover so everybody can see that. Go to toddwright.com. He's even got merch.
That's right. You can go to toddwright.com for a hardback copy, a signed hardback copy, or you can find it on Amazon, both Kindle and paperback. And starting next week, Steve, the end of next week, hopefully, it'll be audio version will be available. So,
and just like the release of a good movie, just in time for Father's Day.
There you go. There you go. Great Father's Day gift.
Well, I mean, really, if you get them the book and a little merch, then you're covered. So anyway, that's real good. Well, let's dive into part 3, and this part I did not. I haven't finished the book, so I haven't gotten to this part. But the chapters under the heading Hunting for a Better Legacy is number 1, be intentional. Number 2, be alert. Number 3, be wise. Number 4, be bold. And number 5, what's next? So give us a little bit of an introduction to what part 3 is about.
Sure. Part 3 moves from my story to your story. Everybody, and even as I write the entire book, I mention things in a way that I'm hoping they're walking their own journey as I'm walking mine and taking them with me. But once we get to chapter 3 or section 3, it's all about, regardless of where you are and how you've done or what age or season you're in, how do you start right there and begin developing your best legacy? Because a lot of times I watch people regularly as a pastor who feel like they've messed up so badly they can never find redemption. They can never find purpose. They can never have a life, meaningful life that's worthwhile, that they can be proud of. And I teach you in the book how, not only that you can, but how you can. And if you hadn't messed up in a really bad way, I promise you, you've messed up in some ways and you've gotten off track and life has lost some of its luster. And you may have succeeded in many areas, but have failed at others. Because most of us, if we do find success, we only find it in 1 or 2 areas. And we leave some other things in the wake. So my key points here are take out a notepad and pen. And as I share with you in the book some of what I've learned and summarized, I put it in the context. If I had a younger man in his 30s, what would I say to him to help him? If he really wants to know, what would I say to him to guide him forward in a better way? And the number one thing is to be intentional. Don't expect your life to get better. Plan for it to get better. Invest in it getting better. but don't just automatically expect it to get better. If today's bad, tomorrow's going to be better. Maybe not. Depends on what you do with tomorrow. And I help you think through that concept of intentionality, of being very purposeful about where you want to go. What do you want out of life? And once you get clarity, here's something about, we don't use this word clarity. We talk about getting clear, same concept. But once you find clarity about who you really want to be at your best, and you can identify that, and what you want your life to mean, and how deeply you want your life to matter, and why that's important, which is your legacy, then you can have confidence. And then you can find courage to live out those things. But if you can't get clarity, I promise you, you will live in a vacuum, lacking confidence and courage every day of your life, and it will affect your self-esteem. It'll affect the quality of life you live. If you don't have clarity, your life will be eaten up with question marks and doubts.
Agreed.
And that's what I hope they can find in intentionality.
Agreed, but here's a hard question.
Yeah.
What if you have that clarity and through a catastrophic situation in your life, that destiny, that purpose is upended, and whatever that catastrophic incident is, how do you pivot
You go through the same process.
again? So you do it
again. Or you get resentment. You get resentful over that event that sidetracked you. And resentment, I just read this last week. Resentment is a made-up emotion. We fabricate it. We fabricate how badly we choose to feel over that disappointment or hurt or heartache, and we give power to it. And it's a choice that we give power to it. And we remind ourselves how awful it was and how it messed me up. And it can be abuse, it can be a tragedy, it can be a bankruptcy, it can be a divorce, it can be a death of someone, all types of failure. And sure, we're going to go through a heartbreak over it for a period of time. But if it turns into resentment, it's then soon going to be bitterness, and we're done.
So, like in so much of this, that's where you have to rely on your faith to get you away from, whether it's bitterness, resentment, or fear, or anger, or whatever.
Yeah, and I very, very much so. But I also say this: I believe that we're writing our own story. We have a master architect helping us write it, and sometimes he may even throw some things in there that we didn't plan.
Most times.
But we still have to choose. What are we going to put on the? If you imagine your life as a book, what are you going to choose on? What are you going to write on the next page? What's going to be the defining moment of your next chapter, and how you overcame that obstacle? And you have to put yourself in that concept, in that mix, in the mindset, because if not, that is your final chapter, and it may last for years, and it's nothing but bitterness and resentment and chaos. But the best books end well. And so for your life to end well and you to reach the legacy you want, you've got to keep writing and asking yourself that question. What do I want? What's clarity about what I want? Who am I? Who am I at my core? Even when things go wrong, who am I? Who do I aspire to be at my best? And that's what intentional living is all about, regardless of what comes. And I've watched so many men who've messed up really badly in ways, and broken relationships with kids and ex-spouses and ex-business partners. And I've watched some who've been able to go back and rebuild much of that, and at least make attempts to invest in those and be honest about their own part of those failures. And I watch others try to ignore it, and they always find a sense of hollow living on the other side. So intentionality is about fixing some of that stuff.
And it's not necessarily totally uncommon when a person, maybe even particularly a male, who feels like maybe they've got a terminal diagnosis or something, they do go around to all these people they have befriended or not befriended, but
or hurt apologies happen.
Apologists, and try to reconcile.
They're trying to finish well.
Yeah.
They're trying to finish well, and it's such a powerful thing. And the fact is, I may not make it home today, and so why don't I go ahead and live that way now, every day intentionally? The second piece of this in the book is to be alert, not only intentional but alert. The Bible says, "You be alert, be vigilant, because our adversary, the devil, walks around like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour." And we have to keep our eyes wide open. Number one principle in hunting: stay awake. You find guys go to sleep in the deer stand, or you find two guys sitting on the same mountainside, and one can write down a list of all kind of creatures he sees, and the other doesn't see anything. And we live this life, and some people have their eyes open and some don't. And it's so important to just remind yourself every day, stay aware, stay awake. And so I list numerous areas where men are oftentimes blindsided in their life and have blind spots, and getting awake and becoming alive to see those things, because that's where we get detoured the easiest, is just by not seeing the danger. And then there's a third component, and it's about living with wisdom. It's not all about intelligence. It's not all about smarts. It's not all about education and knowledge, but wisdom. Wisdom has a deeper meaning, and the Bible says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. So my life's centered in trying to live life to be who God destined me to be, and reach the full potential of who God sees in me. That encompasses numerous things, and I believe there are many sources we have for wisdom, and I mentioned those in the book. One of those, of course, is Scripture. One of those is self, and we look back in our own journey. That's a huge part of it. Self-awareness, learning how to learn from yourself is huge.
In the sense that we learn what our weaknesses are,
Yeah.
where we're susceptible to temptation, etc.
You have patterns. I have patterns.
Oh, yeah.
We battle with the same stuff. It's not rocket signs.
Yeah.
We've been dealing with this stuff since we were boys.
Sure.
And same kind of thoughts. And we can be in our 60s, and all we are is boys, and big old bodies bald now.
Yeah.
But these challenges are still there. And we stepped across lines in our youth sometimes. And we develop character flaws in our youthfulness, and they follow us till the day we die.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of learning and seeing what's my biggest struggles. What's the stuff I've been battling my whole life? Write it down. Stay awake and aware regarding those things, and create barriers between you and those things. Another one is the seasons. I think about seasons. That's a huge concept I deal with here, and I want to mention this because we have winter, spring, summer, and fall. Wisdom is knowing what to do in what season. An effective farmer knows what to plant, when to plow. He knows what to do in each season to make his ground right.
There's a season
and get a
for
good
everything.
heart. There's a season for everything under the sun, and that's a concept God invented.
Yeah, I think it's in Ecclesiastes.
It is, and our life. It actually says He put the sun and the moon and the stars in Genesis to establish the times and seasons. So our life as people, we love for things to stay the same, but they're not.
Yeah.
We live in seasons.
Yeah.
And so even from our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and 80s, we're walking through seasons. So it's natural for us to change. And so at 60, how can I live doing the right stuff at 60? It's not the same right stuff at 20 and 30 and 40 and 50. Each season requires certain things. And my final teaching series as pastor of Midway will be this July and August. And I'm preaching a series called Seasons. And I'll be dealing with a lot of these concepts as I finish up my 30 years there. So I'm excited to mention some of that. And then you move from wisdom into boldness. Boldness, there's so much in our life that we need to do that we don't do because we're afraid. We live with fears every day of our life. Just do the right thing, I can hear Dad saying. Just do the right thing.
They say the Bible says that every day, 365 times, it says, "Be not afraid."
That's interesting.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's the opposite of fear.
So it's a common,
yeah.
it's a common issue. And
faith is the opposite of fear.
exactly. And love is the opposite of fear.
Yeah.
The Bible teaches that love casts out all fear. So
Perfect love.
I think you can make this practical. If you want to get rid of fear, then love your preferred legacy. Love what you want your best of life to be. And that love for your best you and who God wants you to be will help you overcome the fears to actually pursue it and be that godly man or that good husband or that good father or that intentional father or that good friend that we enjoy. And you find yourself loving people more, loving God more when you love your legacy and you hunt for that preferred legacy, and it will help forge the meaning out of midlife and manhood. So those are the four real big ones: intentional, alert, wise, and bold are so essential in forging meaning from midlife and manhood and developing the legacy and finishing well in your life that you want. But don't wait till your last season to design that. I don't care if you're in your 20s or if you have a son that's young, the book will help them. And I'm a storyteller. And I learned a long time ago, for some reason, God's given me ability to tell stories. And I've learned how to transfer that to the page effectively. And people keep reading the story and they find the truths in the stories. And the final piece of this book is about next, what's next. And that's where I talk about my next season, which is going to be all about coaching, about helping other men. And I've actually finished a certification. I've known this for a while, but I finished a certification a couple of weeks ago. It's called High Performance Coaching. And it's about helping people reach their peak, reach their maximum potential. And it's from research done from the highest performers in the world in athletics, in business, in art, in music, regardless of what they do. So I'm looking forward to that next season. And then I challenge the people to live out theirs, find what's next for them.
So mentorship is not exclusive to Todd Wright.
No, it isn't. It's for every human, and especially men, for the younger men, and for ladies, older ladies, to the younger ladies.
Well, thank you for coming in. This is a historic program because we've never done an hour program before. So
I'm honored.
Hunting Legacy is the new book, Forging Meaning for Midlife and Manhood by Todd Wright, forward by Willie Robertson. Go to toddwright.com and you'll find the book. You also, of course, can find it on Amazon, and there's some merch, although that's selling fast. A perfect item for Father's Day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, Steve, thank you for your time, and anybody needs coaching in the future, a business or whatever, just as I want to be a better man, that's what my next season is all about.
ToddWright.com. Thank you to our sponsors, Tanner Health and Oak Mountain Academy. Go out and make it a great day. You're in tune to WLBB Carrollton.